Sometimes, sometimes the story doesn't actually need good guys. So, Peacemaker, the first 4 episodes in specific, I had hoped initially to do episode by episode reviews when it premiered. But that was because I was expecting the premiere to just be 1 episode, but the premiere was the first 3, and I did not have the time set aside to jump on that right away. I have, however, caught up, and so I'll be able to get this out before the 5th episode airs, and then hopefully from there I can manage some episode by episode reviews until it's done, which isn't that far into the future. So this is picking up with John Cena's character from James Gunn's The Suicide Squad. Seriously though, DC, could you stop that? Could you stop naming movies the same title as a movie that already exists, but you just put "the" in front of it? It's really irritating. Anyways, I'm sorry, it's a personal gripe. So this follows him after the events of that because, he did survive with surprisingly little damage, which is one of the first things noted in it. And he gets picked up on this. Well, we don't entirely know what's the deal with them, but this group that is answering to Amanda Waller, and it's not the Suicide Squad. This is like, I don't even want to say it's the B team. This is like the F team, including some folks who we have seen in the Suicide Squad who like the tech folks, etc. Some of them, plus some new folks. And they recruit Peacemaker after he gets out of the hospital, again on the promise that he won't go back to jail, to help them do something. We know it's called Project Butterfly right off the bat, but initially we don't know too much more than that. I will get into stuff that I would consider to be spoilery, but let me talk about some of the broad strokes and my general thoughts about it before I get into any kind of spoiler specifics. I'll give you a warning before I get there. John Cena is really good in this part. I am not a wrestling fan. I was very briefly in the late 80s, early 90s. But it didn't stick. I understand the appeal of it, but it's not something I've ever gotten into. And I'm not even sure I've seen John Cena in a movie other than The Suicide Squad. Dude's got real good comic timing, though. And plus, he's built like a friggin' bulldozer. It's insane. But he's very good in this part. And the part's also very smartly written. The show so far, 4 episodes in, is actually finding a very nice balance of, as we go forward, showing the cracks in Peacemaker's facade. I'm going to say this now. I might have already done it. If I accidentally call him Peacekeeper, just deal with it. It's probably going to happen at some point. I've been rewatching Farscape with Jesse Gender for a podcast for over a year now, and the Peacekeepers are a big thing there. I'm going to make that mistake. How much you want to bet now that I've pointed it out, I won't make that mistake. Anyway, let's get back on top of it. So the show does a very good job of showing us the cracks in Peacemaker, that he's not quite as pulled together as he wants people to think, and also giving some background on why he is this way without actually making him any less of an asshole than he was in the Suicide Squad. It takes a good understanding of the complexities of bad people to be able to give this kind of background so that people understand more without actually asking them to suddenly like the character. Like, he's entertaining to watch, but the show is not suddenly pretending that, because you know this thing from his past, or you know that he thinks this, which is generally a good thing to think. That means he's a good guy? No, he is not a good guy. He's just not. He's got complexities, like everybody does. But the show, at least halfway through, 4 episodes in, is not trying to paint him as any less of an asshole, which I think was a very smart call, especially given some of the specifics of his background, particularly when it comes to his father, played by Robert Patrick. I can't get a ton into him because that's a little bit more spoilery, but boy, is Robert Patrick hateable in this role. And I mean that as a compliment. As far as the other folks that we've got going on here, it's a strong supporting cast. And again, a lot of these people are like, nobody in this is cool. Nobody. They are all various degrees of losers and fuck-ups. Every single one of them. From the top down. There isn't a single completely competent person present. Like maybe Judo Master, but 4 episodes in, we don't totally know his deal. And even he's had his ass handed to him. So he's not even he is not allowed to be fully badass. But like a lot of these people, they are losers. And that's kind of the collective story, but it's not the Guardians of the Galaxy thing where it's like, yeah, we're all losers, but together we're fighting for something good. This is a bunch of losers who don't get along. We don't know if they're fighting for a good cause. I don't think it's a spoiler to speculate. It's probably going to turn out not. It's too shady. So, but between that and just the fact that they're just lame. Like by design, a lot of these characters are very lame. It's interesting, especially coming from James Gunn, almost as a complete mirror inverse to the Guardians of the Galaxy, that we're seeing these losers, and we do understand a bit about them, but we're not really being asked to empathize and or root for them. We're actually largely being invited to sort of shake our heads and go, oh my God. And that, again, that can be tricky for me to enjoy because that can often come in the form of very cringe-based humor or moments. And I don't like cringe. I have never liked cringe. And I'm not going to say this is devoid of it. There's a tiny bit of it, a lot of it circling around the character of Vigilante, but that's earlier on. He starts working better for me as it goes along, and I sort of get a better handle on him. But his initial introduction, I was like, oh, this guy's a cringy character. But I'm warming to him. Again, not to say he's a good guy. He's not. None of these people are good guys. But I am enjoying his presence more now than when he first showed up, and I kind of got that little, I don't know about this. But no, he's working better for me now. The other cast member who I really want to shout out is Danielle Brooks, who's playing kind of the newbie on the team. Because as I said, some of the other members of this crew we've seen before in the Suicide Squad, including Peacemaker himself, she's real good. I enjoy her a lot. She has this wonderful, very likable balance. Again, I'm not going to go so far as to say she's a good person, but she is a likable person. I would say more so than anyone else in the cast, and the story's banking on that quite well so far. I will say this, and this will probably be the last thing I'll say before I get into any kind of spoiler stuff. I'm going to be real irritated. I need to put it on the record now in case it happens. I'm going to be real irritated if her wife at any point gets fridged or damseled or kidnapped. Because right now she has barely been a presence other than to establish that, that this character has a wife and, actually has someone that they care for. She's like the only one who does, which to me feels like a massive red flag of, oh my God, they're going to kidnap her damsel or threaten or something, her wife. And I'm going to be real annoyed if that happens. Please don't do that. I say that as if they're still writing. It's shot. If they did it, they've already done it. We just don't know yet, but hopefully not. So I am going to get into some of the more specifics, and that is going to be spoiler-ish. So that's your warning. Here we go. Sort of what I've enjoyed about Vigilante as I've gotten to know him better is understanding that like he has a very rigid code and yet almost no morals. Like he has this very rigid, if you break the law, I will kill you thing. Like regardless of the severity of the law, because he talks about, killers and drug dealers and graffiti artists. And so like, it's very clear that this guy just wants to kill people. And that's just how he justifies it. So like, as I said, he has a code, but no freaking morals, which Peacemaker does twisted morals, weird morals that, like, dude, if that was going to kick in, that should have kicked in a lot sooner than it did. But he does have some. Vigilante does not. And yet, at the same time, I'm not going to say he's completely devoid of them. He has some things that he is trying to do. He is trying to help. And I actually, one of the things that I found really interesting, actually, and this applies to both Vigilante and Peacemaker, particularly if we're going to contrast with Peacemaker's dad, who is a white supremacist and an open racist. And again, as I said, Vigilante and Peacemaker, not good people. The show makes no bones about the fact that these are not good people. But they're also, neither of them openly racist. Like with Peacemaker, it does seem like he's got like a background level he's still trying to shake, but he does seem to be trying. And Vigilante doesn't seem to have a racist angle at all. Like, he'll go after the idea of somebody being racist to needle other people, like to needle Peacemaker about his dad, or when he ends up in the prison to start a fight, that was real enjoyable. But again, I appreciate this sort of delineation and this not automatically associating certain traits with being a good or a bad person. Which, you should be able to ride that line if you're going to make a show about a guy who kills people and he's the protagonist. But with the fact that, Vigilante, especially, and more or less Peacemaker, are not openly racist. And in fact, in the case of Vigilante, seems to have, if not open disdain, at the very least, is more than happy to go anti-racist as a reason to go after people. It doesn't make him a good person. Just because they are decent about this one thing doesn't suddenly make them good people. Which is nice to see. Because we often see the inverse. We very often see, the flawed hero. The hero who has this thing about them that isn't great. And stories that say, well, we won't condemn them just for that. That's what makes them flawed and interesting. Or maybe that's the thing we're going to fix over the course of the story. Whatever. That's incredibly common. But taking somebody who is definitely a bad person and giving them some clear, admirable traits, and not like token ones, because the most common one you get is you'll take a definite bad person and give them someone who they have a good working relationship with. And I don't mean working as like they work together, but like give them somebody that they care about. So you show they're capable of affection. Maybe it's a significant other. Maybe it's a chief henchman, right hand man, etc. That's the most common. But actually aligning what is pretty universally agreed to be a good set of beliefs, which is not being racist, and giving it to a bad person, but also not having that good thing like be the reason for their badness. Because that's when you get into stuff that I talked about in the video I did about sort of fake complexity for villains, where like, ooh, no, they're fighting for a good cause, but they're doing it badly. No. This is just an aspect of who he is. And it's a good thing that he's not racist. Well, no more than the standard background radiation level that most white men have, white people in general. But like, aside from that, no, he's not racist. And that is a good thing. That has nothing to do with the fact that he is an absolute piece of garbage. I just appreciate it. There's an understanding of what a mess people can be. And that these characters are these piles of major issues, but balanced in such a way that these ones lean, okay, no, see, I don't like you. And these ones lean like, okay, you're a mess, but like, I enjoy watching you. But also at the same time, not encouraging you to forgive or validate or justify any of these things. At most, things get explained, never excused. I'm enjoying this a lot. And the supernatural, paranormal, alien, sci-fi, whatever it ends up being as we learn more about the butterflies elements, that's a good thread to keep the plot logistics going along. Ultimately, the big hook in this is the character interactions, but it does help to have a clear major plot for those interactions to be orbiting around, so that things aren't just flying off in random directions and you're like, what was the point of that? There's a main quest for these characters to be doing. You know, we can do a side quest here or there, but there's still a clear main quest that we are going to keep coming back to. And that's a good thing for this to have, so it doesn't just feel like a series of vignettes and start to feel like they just improv'd a bunch of comedy scenes, which I would have hated. And this doesn't feel like that. I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying it a lot. Halfway through, and like I said, I'm going to try and keep up with episode by episode reviews as we finish this off. Peacemaker, first 4 episodes. What you think about it? Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Like, share, subscribe. Patreon, also link in the description, plus links to other things that I do. Check them out, but don't worry too much about it. Take a relaxed attitude around here, so just come on back next time you need a break. Thanks for sticking around into the credits. None of this would have been possible without my Patreon supporters. In particular, I want to thank Robin Powell, Tracy Scrabbit, Vincent Paul Bartolucci, Robin Moore, Shayla Gourlay, and Bookworm. Thanks for keeping this going. And to everybody,